What's happening, people? Good afternoon. My name is Daryl from the Boxing Lowdown, and we're here for episode number 27 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast. And as always, I'm delighted to be joined by my father, my co-host, the main man, no holds bar, doesn't pull any punches, Mr. Laurie from AFTV. What's going on, man?
Just demonstrating some head movement, man. I think Liam Williams is going to need some of that head movement this weekend when he tries to get inside Andrade's long southpaw jabs. So he's going to have to come in and out, and I hope they've been working on that because they're going to need to be. But yeah, I'm all right, man. How are you? This week, yeah, I'm good, man. You know what? I feel like some of the tension's been lifted. Some of the lockdown restrictions have been lifted, most notably the gym. So I've been going gym nearly every day, man. Just it's just nice being in a gym atmosphere, being able to work out, being able to do some different things other than just like boring, trudging along the road and stuff like that, getting cold and nearly getting run over by cars. So yeah, it's nice to be in a gym, socializing with other people, although not too closely. But yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay.
It's good to hear, man. Good to hear. Got another packed show today. As always, all you guys that join the chat, welcome. Feel free to leave your comments. We are live streaming on Twitter and YouTube. We're going to have a packed show today, man. We've got a lot to talk about. And hopefully you guys can interact with us as you always do. Make it even more entertaining. And for those of you that are new, subscribe to the channel. Those of you that are regulars here, like the video, share, subscribe. And yeah, man, we're ready to go again. And you know what? I've got a special guest for you, man. I've got a guest for you today. Yeah, one of your friends. I'm going to bring him in. This guy, we talk about Laurie not pulling back punches. This guy right here doesn't pull no punches. I'm expecting another great show tonight. So I'm going to bring him in. Let's get him in right now. Mr. Shane, what's going on, bro?
What's good, man? What's good?
What's happening?
Since I've seen you, you've acquired another belt, the green belt.
Yeah, I got that. Maybe
did you get that via email?
Nah.
Was that Instagram jump? I mean.
Yeah, of course. Got
a Ryan Garcia belt, King Ryan.
Yeah,
King
of course.
I don't want to fight anybody that may beat me because you know what I mean. There you go.
Let's get into it, man. We've got a packed show today. I'm going to go through the comments as we do. And yeah, we've got Shane on today, very special guest. And let's keep it moving, man. So Ian Hamilton, my guy, leaving a comment right away. He's put, oh, yes, we go again. Which fighter's fan base is Laurie going to get fuming this week? Yeah, I mean, recently it's been Joseph Parker. It's been Canelo. It's been Errol Spence. You know what? One of your Errol Spence comments got me in a bit of heat the other day, man. But I was backing you, Yeah, I was backing you on there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, just some fanboy. Do you know what I mean? Just didn't like what. Yeah, they're never gonna like what you say when they're a fanboy, are they?
But you know what? The thing is, we live in a culture nowadays that if you disagree with a fanboy, you know what I mean, you get cancelled for life. So that's unfortunate. But like I said, man, when we first started these shows, you said to me you wanted me to come on and speak my truth, and that's what I do. Yeah. I don't say I'm right. I don't say I'm wrong for the most part. What I do, however, is to speak honestly and from the heart about what I feel about boxers and boxing. And that's all I can do. Anything less, and I'm not being true to myself.
Don't change that, man. We don't want that change at all. Conrad has already said here, I predict a fire podcast. Conrad, you already know. These two on here, it's going to be hard for me to get a word in. So I'm getting all my words in now. You know what I mean?
I'm staying quite silent because I know there's going to be something that your dad's going to say that's going to get me off. So
it's gonna be popping, man. Conrad has also put here little Errol. So that little trend is trending. That little word you got there.
It's Lil Errol. It's capital L-I-L. And that's in recognition of him being a rapper, because all the rappers these days are all Lil or Dat. So it's Dat Errol, D-A, or Lil Errol, L-I-L. You know what I mean?
Or it could be Young Errol.
Lil Wayne. Could be Young Errol.
Yeah, Young Errol, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Guys, let's get straight into it, man. Let's talk about the fight this weekend. And I'm not talking about the YouTube fight. I'm talking about Liam Williams and Demetrius Andrade. WBO middleweight title will be on the line. Liam Williams has called for this fight for a long time. He's been actively pursuing Andrade on social media. He's been hunting him down, and he's got him. I think he was the mandatory anyway. Yeah, he had to make a mandatory
No,
defense.
he wasn't.
Was it not mandatory? Okay.
Because Munguia was champion at 154, WBO champion. He moved up, so automatically he becomes champion at the weight class above because he was WBO champion at the weight class below. But obviously, for some reason, they said that he turned down the fight or whatever, so they went down to the next highest ranked fighter, which was Liam Williams.
Okay, cool. But yeah, either way.
Where have we heard that before? Guys turning down fights because maybe Munguia thought that Andrade doesn't sell enough pay-per-views, so he decided to go a different direction.
I personally just feel like, again, this is shout out to Toriano Johnson. I was on the live with him a few weeks ago, but I just feel like Toriano Johnson gave him the business at middleweight, and he just thought this might be harder than I thought, so he's probably going to take a few more easier fights.
I couldn't see Munguia beating Andrade. No way. This is style. I don't think so.
Let's talk about this fight here, Liam Williams and Demetrius Andrade, man. How much of a chance are you giving Liam Williams in this fight? And are you looking forward to it? I'll start with you, Laurie.
Well, you know what? I am looking forward to this fight a lot. And shout out to Liam Williams, man. He's like single-handedly promoted this fight, really, hasn't he? You know what I mean? From the way he's gone after Andrade right from the start, he's made it clear, you know what I mean? The man said he's coming out there to knock his dreadlocks all over the ring. So I must admit, for trash talking goes, I did like that one, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, shout out to Liam Williams. He's wanted this fight, he's pursued it. He really believes in himself. But you know what they say? There's a little old adage that I used to hear from back in the day. Be careful what you wish for. And I think it might be one of those nights for him, man. I think, to be honest with you, and I know we're going to discuss it in the fullness, I can't really see him beating Andrade, man, unless he knocks him out. And I think Andrade's got a very good chin. I mean, let's keep it 100. Andrade is a real goofball, you know what I mean? You look at him and you think, his appearance, the way he talks, he laughs at his own jokes. He's a bit corny, you know what I mean? And you think to yourself, you know what I mean? Like in street mentality, if you saw him out on the road, you think, "Right, this guy's an idiot." You know what I mean? I'm sure that's how man will be thinking. But you know, just like the streets, sometimes you've got to be careful how you just pull up on people thinking, yeah, they're a soft touch, because you might get surprised. You know what I mean? Just on a quick note, I mean, I remember when I was at school many years ago, there was a guy I used to hang out with, very intelligent guy, a guy called Garfield. And because he looked a bit nerdy and so forth, people obviously thought he was a pushover. And then there was one day at the school, one of the bullies in the year, he picked a fight with this guy Garfield. And Garfield tore his ass up. You know what I mean? And from then on, you think to yourself, like, you know what I mean? Don't judge a book by its cover. And that's a bit like Andrade. You look at him and you hear him talk and you see the way he dresses and that, you think, oh, this guy, who is this guy? But if you actually examine his credentials, even as an amateur, he was a top-class amateur, an Olympian. He went to the 2008 games. He was a world amateur champion. They don't give those away. You know what I mean? And he was, like I said, he went to the Olympics in Beijing, 2008. He didn't do that well, but it was a disputed decision. But he'd beaten all the top amateurs in the world in that year leading up to the Olympics. He was favored to win the gold. He'd beaten the Russian, he'd beaten the Cuban. And if you look at some of the guys he'd beaten in the amateur, he beat Keith Thurman a couple of times. He beat Sean Porter. You know what I mean? He was the best welterweight in America at a time when they had some very good amateur fighters. He's turned pro without the fanfare of some of the other guys, even though he was a top amateur. He's not blown people away with his performances in the ring, but he's still unbeaten after all this time. There's a couple of good names on his records. Marty Rosian was a former world champion. That sticks out. Jack Kulkai is another one that sticks out. And there's a couple other names that are so-so. So, well, I think the problem he's had is getting those sort of marquee fights, those career-defining fights. And to be fair to Andrade, I don't think it's him being the one that stuck it.
Well, he had the whole Saunders saga with the nasal spray and stuff like that. So that fight was signed. And let's be honest, that would have been a big fight for him. So he couldn't do nothing about that. And I also say that, I say this all the time, Eddie Hearn's dropped the ball when it comes to the whole Andrade-Golovkin situation. Because in my opinion, Andrade and Golovkin, they're both in-house fights. I don't know why Golovkin's fighting all these obscure names. I mean, I feel like that's an easy fight to make. I'm going to be honest.
Great
Did
point.
it have anything to do with the fact that Triple G wanted no part of Andrade? Because sometimes you just got to look at the dynamics of the situation. If you're Andrade, why wouldn't you want that fight? You're younger, you're more mobile, you know what I mean? You're unbeaten.
And it's a high-profile fight.
Yeah.
It's a high-profile fight.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you want that fight? So to me, and again, I'm not saying that Triple G's scared, because someone like Andrade's not going to frighten someone like Triple G. But he's probably reasoning and think, this guy's all wrong for me stylistically. And he's not a massive name in boxing, so it's not like we're going to sell 1 million pay-per-views. Do I really want that work? You know what I mean? And if I swerve him, he'd probably go under the radar because people are not all up on Andrade anyway. So that's probably what happened in those fights. You know what I mean? So he's unbeaten, man. And he carries himself with a certain type of confidence and swagger that isn't to the appeal of everybody. But you've got to put some respect on his name.
Here's a question. What does Triple G see in Andrade that would stop him from taking that fight? That would put fear in him.
What you got to understand, and I feel like it's more of a sense of hardcores. Golovkin probably reached the stage where he's looking at maximum amount of money for minimum amount of reward. And the hardcore fans will be pushing for the Andrade fight, but the normal casual fan, they wouldn't care who Golovkin fights. If it's not Canelo, everybody's the same in their eyes. And what you gotta also understand is that it's not always fair. Sometimes it's just the reward of things. Sometimes the reward just isn't big enough. So when you look at things and you think, okay, this guy might be a tricky fight, or you might even think he's an easy fight, but the reward just isn't there. And that's what I just feel like, the reward isn't there.
Yeah, Shay makes a good point there. When you think about ducking and avoiding, I like to call it ducking, man. Avoiding's too nice of a term for it. It's ducking, right? So when you get guys that duck, what tends to happen is very rarely are fighters ducking another fighter because they're scared. I mean, okay, you could look at someone like Carl Frampton and the way he ducked Rigondeaux. Now, to me, he was scared of Rigondeaux.
Yeah.
Rigondeaux on smoke. And he's like, no, I don't want that smoke. You know what I mean? This guy's probably going to knock me out, damage my saleability, and you know what I mean, it's all done from there on in. So he did his absolute best to avoid Rigondeaux, to the point where he was being disrespectful about Rigondeaux. Now with Triple G and Andrade, if you're Triple G, you're not going to be looking at Andrade. Nothing he's going to do is going to intimidate or frighten Triple G, because let's face it, Triple G's got one of the best, if not the chins in boxing. So it's not like he's going to be worried about getting knocked out or badly hurt. I don't think Triple G feels that way about anyone, to be fair to him. However, does he want to get in there with a young, mobile, awkward guy who's blessed with a lot of natural talent and has got the ability to make someone like Triple G, who's fairly slow on his feet, he's going to make him look ponderous. And if he loses, which there, let's face it, there would have been a high chance of him losing that fight. He's gonna lose to a guy that people are gonna say, you lost to Demetrius Andrade. What? I thought you was this big bad Triple.
To be fair, I feel like what Laurie done there is actually a valid point. And this is gonna bring me back to the Liam Williams thing. A lot of people still look at Andrade as an enigma. Like, they don't really rate him that highly. Like, some people do who are hardcore and they watch the sport, but if you really go through it, people don't actually rate Andrade that highly. So because of that, it just kind of, I mean, some people even look at him like when he's a two-time world champion. Some people even look at that as like how is this guy a two-time world champion? Like, I remember having a lot of arguments with a lot of guys, and Andrade is one of the guys I actually like to watch. And people are saying Liam Williams gonna roll this guy over. A lot of British guys are saying this. I'm like, you obviously just don't like him, or you obviously just don't rate him. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about Andrade that people just don't like.
Maybe the goofiness, man. Maybe maybe a bit goof. Maybe it's his personality. Could be.
No, I think that definitely plays a part. And let's be honest as well. Like Shane says, if you're not a boxing connoisseur or purist or a die-hard, hardcore boxing fan like we all are, you're not really going to appreciate the skills of southpaw, who's tall, he's rangy, he doesn't always engage, you know what I mean? He's happy to go points. And a lot of boxing casuals, they just don't gravitate to somebody like that. They like guys who are going to march forward and throw bombs or either knock people out or get knocked out or be in up and down fights. And that's not really Andrade's way of doing things, man. He's a skills guy. And the fact that, like you said, he's a bit corny, he's a bit nerdy. He doesn't fit the typical stereotype of a alpha male macho boxer. People are going to look at the guy with his, you know, dreadlocks with the little blonde trims in it. They're going to think, who is this guy? He looks like an actor.
I remember when he was with Billy Joe Saunders and he was wearing those flary clothes. I'm thinking, like, I like Andrade, but again, I like
his skill set, man. And you know what? He's not really easy to like, but you know what I mean? I kind of like him because he's unique. And I always say that boxers shouldn't always be a monolith. You don't have to be this big, tough, macho, I'm going to knock you out guy. You know what I mean? You don't have to be like that to be a good fighter. And it's also a myth, I think, in boxing where you think that every guy who's a good boxer came up dirt poor on the streets and, you know what I mean? Spent
I got the utmost respect for Andre, but yeah, I do think he's a bit corny, man. But I'm going to get into my prediction in a bit, Shane. I'm going to read this comment out. Ian Hamilton has put here, got to give Williams his due. He has called for this for ages and will give it his all. I know that. Hope it is a good one. Got a feeling it will be a good one. Yeah, I think it'll be a good one. I think, getting on to the fight now, rather than talking about Andrade, I think that Liam Williams, he knows what he's in against. But I hope he hasn't, like, I don't think he has underestimated Andrade, but I think he knows what he's up against. And it's going to be a difficult challenge for him. But it's one that he's been calling for. He knows what he's going into. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that he's been on a great bit of form recently. You know, he's been taking everybody out. But I have to say, the people that he has been taking out haven't been anywhere near the level of Demetrius Andrade. So although some of the people online, I see some of the British fans like saying, like, look, yeah, Williams going to smash him. And this ain't just any guy. This is like a two-time world champion, two-weight world champion. So
how many of those guys who said that, how many of them have seen Andrade fight? I bet you not many. I mean, to me, this is a very intriguing fight. Now, stylistically, and when you look at the two records, you think to yourself, well, Andrade should win, yeah? But I could see Liam Williams winning because he's improved a lot. He's one of the most improved fighters in Britain, I would say. But what I found myself, and I'd be interested to hear your two views on this, is that you talk about underestimating. Who's underestimating whom? Like, you listen to Andrade, he sounds supremely confident, as he always does. He's almost dismissive when he talks about Williams. Oh, another Brit. Yeah. Was he like Luke Keeler, who I beat? You know what I mean? Was he like Brian Rose? Yeah, I beat a few of those guys. They all said the same thing. When it came to fight time, I beat them easy. So you listen to him, and he appears anyway to be underestimating Liam Williams. But then again, if you listen to Liam Williams, yeah, I'm going to smash him. I'm going to put so much pressure on him. He won't be able to cope. Yeah, he's a decent fighter, but he's not anyone. And I'm thinking to myself, well, who's underestimating whom here? And a lot of the fans are Liam Williams fans and British fans, and some of the websites and people I see, they seem to be predicting that Liam Williams is just going to walk over there and smash this guy to pieces. I'm thinking, have you ever seen this guy fight? Everyone try that and it don't work.
To be fair, and I look at it, it's more of a sense that, to me, Luke Williams, sorry, he's got to make, or Liam Williams, I'm saying Luke, sorry. Liam Williams got to make the most adjustments. He has to make the most adjustments. And to me, I just feel like it's very easy to watch tape and make a game plan on tape. But what he's going to realize very, very quick is how athletically gifted and how athletically insufficient he is in comparison to Andrade. Their feet are significantly, like, one's on one end of the radar and one's on the other. And I feel like I understand why Andrade will be looking at him like, oh, he's just another fighter or just another British fighter, because whilst he has been looking good, he hasn't fought anyone where he's had to show foot speed. He hasn't fought anyone. And Andrade, all he needs to do is what he does in every fight is use range, use his feet, and use use the distance. So to me, I just look at it like, really and truly, you just got to do what you've been doing the whole time. It's for Liam Williams to make the adjustments. And I'm thinking, what adjustments can you make? Me personally, you don't just go in with a fight against Andrade and learn in camp. You have to be in against him and learn his speed, learn his timing, because to be honest, the first 4 rounds, he's literally going to be hitting oxygen.
Yeah, I mean, Liam Williams is probably looking at the fights against like Kolkai, who's the other guy, Fox, where he went the distance. Well, the Kolkai one was a split decision, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember watching that Kolkai. I'll tell you what happened in that Kolkai.
He's not. Liam Williams hasn't looked. Andrade hasn't looked at the potential which we would have expected him to be at by now. And I remember you saying a few shows ago, if we were to judge Demetrius Andrade's career right now based on him off his potential, it would be a bit disappointing. Okay, he's won a world title, which is, like everybody aims to win a world title. But like he for what his potential was, we expected more. We've expected more from him.
That's
true. That's true. But
what I would say than Williams, in my opinion.
What I would say about that is that, in a way, that also indicates how good he is. It's because he's had all these fights, right? And he's not always excelled. He's not always looked motivated, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, he's always come out with a win. So that tells me that this guy has got talent, because even on an off night, even when a night when he doesn't seem to be putting out 100%, he's still coming away with a W. And one thing I would say as well about Demetrius Andrade is that when he plants his feet, he can punch. He can punch, man. And he's not a one-punch knockout artist, but he hits hard enough to keep people honest.
Can be a bit wild sometimes. Can be quite wild.
I was going to get to that. Because I spoke to your dad today about it. In my opinion, he only looks wild when he's like, sometimes when he's comfortable in a fight, this guy looks so sloppy. But when he's just fighting basic, like in the first 4 rounds of the Selecki fight, for example, he didn't load up on anything. And he was so clean in how he fought. But as the back end go, when you're 10-0 in a fight and you won every single round after 10 rounds, this guy then starts to look a bit sloppy. And then he starts to look at, when the fight gets a bit easy, he starts to make some crazy decisions, like trying to be overly aggressive and overcompensate on the front foot, like running across the ring and doing some craziness. But when he's actually focused and disciplined for a full 12 rounds, kind of like how he was in, what fight can I say? Even in the, what's it called fight? He's not a high level opponent, but Carlton Docker fight, he kind of stayed disciplined the whole way through. Whereas when he's looking for the knockout, which I don't think he'll be doing in this fight, he looks a bit sloppy. So I feel like it's just his mentality. I feel like if people are watching that and thinking that's what they're going to get from Andrade, then they're going to be in for a shock, because he doesn't fight like that often.
I think as well, you have to look at that performance against Selecki. That was actually a good performance, because Selecki give Danny Jacobs life and death. You know what I mean? And you couldn't be said that he did the same thing with Andrade. Andrade pretty much won every round in that fight.
And he got a knockdown in the first round.
Yeah.
Go to the comments quickly, guys. Ian Hamilton has put here, for Williams to win, he has to make Andrade work when he doesn't want to, and maybe whack him with body shots and get close. But everybody's got a plan until they get hit. And that was obviously a quote from Mike Tyson there. And Ian Hamilton has also put here, Dubois' return has just been announced. He'll be fighting Bogdan Dinu. What's your guys' thoughts on that? On his return opponent?
It's a nice, easy segue back into the boxing world, in a fight that he'll win comfortably. I mean, listen, had he been in with the likes of Bogdan Dino before what happened to him against Joyce, we would all be on this show saying, who the hell, why is he fighting this guy for? But you know what? In boxing, they say you're only as good as your last fight. He had that terrible night against Joyce. He lost the fight. Then he had to put up with all the ridicule and all the stuff around him, so-called quitting, which I'm not part of that group at all. At the end of the day, man, a man's eye is more important than your career. And if you feel that you're suffering long-term damage, and he felt at that time like he was in serious trouble with the eye, I'm not saying quitting is something that I endorse, but at the same time, man, if he felt that pulling out saved his eye, then hey, I think he's entitled to do that. But yeah, man, this sounds like a regulation comeback win for him. And yeah, man, I wish him all the best. Let's see how he progresses.
Shane, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been harsh on the boy. I'm not going to be so harsh right now because I feel like he's young and he has to get a chance to work his way back in. You know, he had a massive fall from grace. So if you were to chuck him in the deep end again, it'd be a bit unfair. So really and truly, this fight should just be about, is the eye good? Is his body in good condition? Is it get his mindset back into winning and then go from there?
Also had some confirmation on some fights while we've been live. I'm going to read them out to you. Teofimo Lopez, that fight against George Kambosos has been confirmed for June the 5th. So that's definitely happening. And also an exhibition fight. Evander Holyfield will be fighting Kevin McBride. Now, Kevin McBride, he obviously defeated Mike Tyson in his last fight. Evander Holyfield was chasing Mike Tyson for a long time. But it's just been announced, it's just come through on my phone, that Evander Holyfield and Kevin McBride will fight in an exhibition bout on June the 5th as well. So that must be a new Triller show. It's going to be on the same show as Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. So double-header there.
To me, that's no double-header, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I shouldn't even say
double-header. That is a joke thing. You know what I mean? That is an absolute joke. And listen, man, I mean, some people are going to defend it. Some people are going to use the state of boxing now to say, yeah, that's why these guys are. But for me, it's absolute nonsense. I don't want to see Evander Holyfield in a ring. Don't want to see Kevin McBride in the ring. Don't want to see them fighting each other. And even as far as so-called exhibition fights go, let's be honest, man, that's pretty low budget, that one, isn't it? I mean, who's that going to attract? You know what I mean? But then again, maybe I'm showing my age here. Maybe you should ask someone like Shane because it's probably geared towards these guys' age group. Because I've seen him as a young pro. I've seen him win titles. I've seen him fight on till he shouldn't have been fighting anymore. And now at nearly 60 years old, you're coming out of retirement to fight Kevin McBride. Come on, man. It's a joke to him.
Let's get you guys' predictions, man, before we move on. Andrade Williams. Shane, give me your prediction for this fight.
I see it being an Andrade win. I do feel like I don't know what mentality Andrade's coming in with, but I do feel like he will win pretty comfortably on points.
Yeah, Laurie?
Yeah, I'm going for Andrade. Wide points decision. I think he's just going to know too much. There is a slight possibility based on stuff I've seen how he talks, but then he always talks like that about everyone, that he might be underestimating Liam Williams. But I think if you look at Liam Williams' record and Andrade has been the pro longer. He's fought the better opponents. And when Liam Williams has been stepped up, you remember those 2 fights he had with Liam Smith, he got beaten. So we have to kind of go by that, you know what I mean? And whilst I expect Liam Williams to put up a good fight, and he will have his moments, because it's not like you can't hit Andrade. He's been hit before, although I've never seen him dropped. Have any of you guys?
You know, he got dropped in the Fox fight, but it was like a flash knockdown. It wasn't like a proper knockdown. Yeah. Because he was coming forward. This is another thing. I'm glad you brought it up, because this will actually be my game plan if I was Liam Williams. Wait for Andrade to throw wide shots and just try hitting him in between those shots. You won't.
I think he will do that.
You won't hurt him, but what you do is Andrade loses balance very easy. So if you can get a hit while he's throwing that shot, there's a chance that he can fall over and drop. You know, and that's how he almost threw himself off his feet in the Keeler fight, where he threw that wide left hook and he almost knocked himself down. So he's quite.
With the Keeler fight, he was totally having his way in that fight. So that's maybe not a good. Good.
I know. I'm just giving an example.
But what I'm gonna say is that obviously Liam Williams can't afford to get involved in a jab fest. He's got to be the aggressor. He's got to go out there and make the fight. He's got to go to the body. Got to try and slow Andrade down, and you know what I mean, close the distance. If he can do that, he's younger. He looks ambitious. He looks hungry. Then he's got a chance, and he does hit hard, Liam Williams. So he does definitely have a chance, and I'm very looking forward to this fight. But you know, if you put a gun to my head, man, I'm gonna have to say Andrade all day long.
I'm going to go full house. I'm going to go full house and say Andrade by decision. As much as I'd like to see Liam Williams win, I'm rooting for him. I'd like to see him do it. To be fair,
why would you like to see Liam Williams?
I just think Andrade's corny, man. I'll be honest. I respect him. I like watching him, but I want to see Liam Williams do it. I'm just being real, man.
I don't want to see Liam Williams win.
Why not? Why?
I don't have nothing against Liam Williams, but to me, he's just a basic fighter. I don't think watching him, him winning is good for boxing. I don't think it's good for boxing at all. I feel like Charlo will beat him, Golovkin will beat him, and all of the guys at the top level will beat him. Whereas if Andrade
wins, what are we going to see him in one of those fights though? That's the issue. Like, what's more the upside?
We know he wants them, so that's my point. We know he wants them, and if he does get them, they're more entertaining fights for me. I wouldn't want to see Liam Williams fight Charlo, or Liam Williams fight Golovkin, or Liam Williams fight Canelo, or none of that. I don't want to see that.
No, but the thing is,
Andrade against them with them lot. To be fair, we probably won't see him in with those guys either.
We
won't see it because we haven't seen it for a while. Like, I mean, we haven't seen Andrade in with those opponents. So if he wins, who's he going to fight next? Like another guy, you know what I mean? Another European? Is he going to fight somebody? You know, I don't think it's really worked, this relationship with Eddie Hearn so far. It hasn't worked. And he hasn't got the fights that we would have wanted him to be in.
I think if Liam Williams wins this fight, you could see him in with Chris Eubank Jr. That would be a good fight because both of them are calling each other out. And
but they're both to me, they're both below A-level fighters. They might even. I think Liam Williams is B-, to be honest.
Yeah, but listen, you don't have to be a A-level fighter, as it were, to win a world title. You know, I mean, there's
so many entertaining fights.
Yeah, there's so many.
It's not about entertaining fights, though. It's about historical fights. I would rather see a to me, Andrade versus Charlo. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's historic for me. That would be a historic fight for me.
But going back to Liam Williams, I just want to say one thing quickly, and this is the slight detraction that I have with Liam Williams, and I can't help but say this. You know what I mean? That causal link between him and Dominic Ingle has raised a few eyebrows in recent times. And indeed, Andrade has touched on it this week in the lead up to this fight. Is that he's gone with Dominic Ingle. Okay, he used to be trained up in Wales by what's the guy's name? Gary
Lockett.
Gary Lockett, yeah. And he lost to Liam Smith, and then he went to Dominic Ingle, and he's been very successful, Dominic Ingle. But a few people have sort of raised their eyebrows and said, "Look, Dominic Ingle's history with his fighters and heads." And Liam Williams rock up, and all of a sudden he's ultra aggressive and he's banging guys out. I mean, he was always a decent fighter, not decent, a good fighter. But now all of a sudden he's turned into this whirlwind, knocking guys out, talking aggressively. People are making that link between that and is there some kind of stuff going on with the Ingles and some of the PED issues? You know, we've seen it with Kid Galahad, we've seen it with Billy Joe Saunders. There's been rumours about Kell Brook. So is there something going on in the background there? That's the only thing with Liam Williams, that if he won, I could see some people bringing that up again. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, I'm sure it's going to be a very entertaining fight, and I am looking forward to it.
Let's go to some comments here. Conrad Boxing has put Andrade by wide decision. So I think everybody here believes that Andrade will win. I haven't seen anyone pick Liam Williams yet. Big up my bro, Raps on TV. He put evening, gents. What's going on, my brother? Conrad has put Raps. So yeah, Raps is in the building. And he's also saying going with Andrade, win on points. If you guys haven't seen, head over to Raps on TV's channel. I went on their show last week. No, this week, actually. And it was a very good show. So make sure you guys check that out. And Conrad has put here, I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts on Tank fighting at 140. Well, that's kind of segueing into our next part of the podcast, man. We're going to talk about this PBC schedule that got released last night. A lot of big fights announced on there, some very good ones. Let me try a thing on here, try and share my screen again for you guys. Let me just try a thing here. Hold on one sec. Share the screen.
The PBC have been falling on their face a little bit recently. So I think that announcement has kind of breathed a little bit of life into what was starting to look like a bit of a dying organization, wasn't it?
Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, so this is the schedule that we've got from Showtime and PBC. Starting from May the 15th, we've got Luis Nery versus Brandon Figueroa. That's for the WBC Super Bantamweight World
That's a really good fight. That's a really good fight.
Listen, we've got a lot of good fights on here, bro. We've got Nordine Nubali against Nonito Donaire, Jamal Charlo. That's not a good fight.
I think Donaire should be retired by now, man.
Jamal Charlo against Juan Montiel. I mean, come on, man.
No, that's a joke thing as well.
That's the worst fight on it.
Yeah.
Gervonta Davis against Mario Barrios. That's what Conrad's asking for our opinion on. So let's talk about it.
That's got what? Just before we go, that's got Lubin and
Rosario. Yeah,
that's a good fight as well. But yeah, continue.
What do you guys think of the? What do you guys think then? The main event.
You know what? I'm not like massively excited by that fight. I mean, Gervonta's one of these fighters, man, that they just keep going up and down in weight. You're not cleaning out no divisions. You're just winning, you know, targeting guys that you think you can beat, winning a title. Then we're going to get this, I'm a 4-time world champ, first one.
Yeah, I was going to say this.
I agree.
I'm sick of all that, man. I mean, what is Gervonta's best weight? Yeah, and why isn't he taking on the likes of Gary Russell Jr. and people like that? You know what I mean? To me,
look at the lightweight division. Look, you know what I mean? Like, why are you not trying to get into that mix?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So, what these guys, they're targeting people. You know what I mean? They're targeting teams. You know,
and also this is not the real super lightweight world champion, because we know that the WBA belt is held by either Taylor or Ramirez. I can't remember which one has it. Do you know what I mean?
Just Taylor.
Taylor has it, yeah. So this is just some media regular title. It don't mean nothing.
But it's how it's marketed, though, isn't it? Because when Lomachenko was full WBA champion at 135, when he beat Yuriorkis Gamboa, they had that. Oh, he's a 2-weight world champion. When he just won some stupid regular title. So to me, I hate this fight purely and simply because of how it will be marketed. And that's what I hate. I would have preferred to see him fight Ryan. I'll be honest. I wanted to see Tank versus Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I want to see, let's rewind. I want to see Gervonta Davis fight Gary Russell Jr. It's a natural fight. They both live in the same area, the DMV area. You know what I mean? That would have been a massive fight in that area against two guys at their natural weights. That's the fight that should have been had.
Gary Russell's at 128.
Gary Russell Jr. has been calling out Gervonta for the longest time, and Gervonta's been ducking and hiding.
Yeah, but Gary Russell's also called out Devin Haney. We saw what happened there. Can we take his call out serious?
I think you can definitely take serious him calling out Gervonta.
Let's go through the rest of these.
The frustration with Gary Russell is that he ended up calling out Devin Haney because the guy's only fighting once a year. He can't get anyone meaningful to share the ring with him.
Let's go through the rest of these quickly. Chris Colbert against Yuriorkis Gamboa. We've got Jamel.
I like Chris Colbert.
Yeah, I like Chris Colbert, and this is an understandable fight because it's typical, isn't it? You got a guy on the way up versus a guy on the way down. The guy on the way down has been a great fighter back in the day, but he's nowhere near those levels now. So it's strategic, isn't it? It's one that's going to hopefully build Chris Colbert's career. So I'm not excited by it, but that fight does make sense.
This is the main one for me. This is the biggest one on the whole schedule. Sorry. Jamel Charlo against Brian Castano, undisputed junior middleweight title will be on the line. We have another undisputed title fight, and Jamel Charlo, man, for me, he should be on the pound for pound list by now. I saw the Rings magazine's pound for pound list. He's not on there, and if he wins this fight in convincing fashion, it's not going to be a given. But if he wins this, then whatever you say about the guy, man, there's no denying his ability and talent.
No, I don't think anyone's ever doubted Jamel Charlo's talent, man. You know what I mean? And you're right, he should be on those pound for pound listings.
I don't think he should be on it right now, but I think if he wins this fight, he definitely should be.
Yeah. What about Rigondeaux? Sorry, carry on.
When you look at that fight, I feel like I'm excited because people are always criticizing boxing or boxing's in a worse state or whatever people are saying. But when you look at it, in 1 year, we can have 3 unifications or 3 undisputed fights. AJ Fury,
Yep.
Josh Taylor and Ramirez, which is already signed. And then you got this fight, which is already signed. That's 3 undisputed fights in 1 year. So people are saying the best ain't fighting the best. Well, there's 3 undisputed fights for you right there.
Great point.
Yeah, that is a good point, and we need to see more of it. But yeah, I agree with you guys. This looks to be, on paper anyway, the most attractive of all the fights they've announced, and I'm looking forward to that because I've seen a little bit about Castano, and he's from Argentina, and he can box and brawl. Again, very good amateur. He looks good, man. And the thing about him as well, man, he made it known from the minute he won that title that he's coming after Charlo. You know what I mean? So
you guys remember, like, the whole reason why this situation is even going on right now is because they robbed Castano against Erislandy Lara. Because if he beat Lara, he would have been the one fighting Jarrett Hurd instead of Lara fighting Jarrett Hurd. So that was another dynamic that happened because I thought Brian Castano beat Erislandy Lara, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of people did. A lot of people did. So
Rigondeaux against John Riel Casemiro. My guy Rigondeaux, I know you guys love him too, man. Listen, man, one of my favorite fighters. This fight probably coming at the wrong time for him, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, when you think about Rigondeaux, you can't help but feel a little bit sorry for this guy. I mean, this guy could have been one of the greatest fighters of the modern era. You know,
legit, yeah.
Yeah, he just didn't get the opportunities because there was a series of guys that was just ducking him. And we spoke about Frampton last week, and I've mentioned Frampton this week. The way he ducked Rigondeaux was shameful. But it wasn't just Frampton, was it? There was a few of them. Scott Quigg, you know what I mean? Leo Santa Cruz, the list goes on. And he didn't get shown any love by the broadcasters in America. You know, I mean, they was ridiculing him for being boring and stuff like that. So he just never had the love. Things he could have done better. Maybe he could have been a bit more exciting at times. Maybe he should have made more of an effort to learn the language, you know, that he could market himself more. So he's not beyond reproach either. But you have to say that it's his career has been largely undervalued and even wasted, really. You know, I mean, it's a real shame. And like you said, I get the impression that a fight like this is coming at the wrong time for him. I mean, how old is Rigondeaux? I mean,
he's 40. I think he's at least 40.
When you have these students
somebody of that weight, 40 or 40 plus, because I'm hearing he could even be older than that.
That's Cuban guys. You never know their age.
Yeah, that's almost ancient for that kind of weight. You know what I mean? I mean, 40 is older any weight in boxing, but particularly the lower weights. So I don't know. It depends on how much he's got left. If it goes to points, he's probably not going to get the decision because he's definitely not the A side in this fight. So it could be a sad ending for him, man. But
I mean, why is Casemiro not fighting Inoue? That's what I want to know. That fight should have been an easy fight to make. But obviously, I would have preferred to see that fight. You know, Casemiro both holding the WBO and then obviously Inoue holding the other straps. I would have preferred to see that one.
Yeah.
Well, I think the PBC are trying to put some work Rigondeaux's way because he's not been fighting. I think he had one or two fights since the Lomachenko fight, and they've kind of flown under the radar a little bit, haven't they? So it's a high-profile fight. You know, chance for him to win another strap. So it's an opportunity for him, but has he got enough left in the tank to take it? Probably not, but we'll see.
Also on the bill, we've got David Benavidez against Jose Uzcategui. Thoughts on that one?
That's a joke fight. That's some idiot fight. That's a joke fight.
I wouldn't say it's a joke fight. Don't forget, you know, before Caleb Plant beat Uzcategui, he was almost like a bit of a boogeyman, wasn't he?
The reason why it's a joke fight is because this guy was talking. This is what I don't like about Benavidez, and he's one of my least favorite fighters in the sport.
Really?
This guy calls out all of the guys smaller than him. He's a clear weight bully who's clearly not a 168 pounder. He's a 175 pounder. And then when he fights fighters, he doesn't even fight anyone of that great note. To me, this guy should have moved up to 175 a long time ago. And he should have seen those guys at PBT, either Pascal or Buddy Jack or Marcus Brown, one of those guys who's over at PBC at 175. Instead, this guy's calling out people like Charlo and stuff. I'm thinking, bro, just fight. You're already a weight, boy. You missed weight like 600 times, bro. I'd rather see him fight at 175. Any fight that's, unless it's Plant, Canelo, or he's at 175, I don't really want to see.
Well, you see, this is where me and Shane are going to have to disagree for the first time on this show. I don't get that at all, man. I mean, what do you want the guy to do? The man's been calling out Charlo. He's been calling out Canelo. To me, that's a bit of a fresh air. We want guys to be calling people out. And you're talking about him being a weight bully. Yes, he's big for the weight. He probably will end up 175 soon, but he's only young. He's only 23, man. So he's probably not assimilated into his man strength yet. So he will go for 175 at some point. But
Can I ask you a question? Why did he not fight Canelo?
Because Canelo don't want it to fight him.
Oh, don't get him started on that.
That's not right. The reason why he didn't fight Canelo is because he lost his strap, because he was overweight. He lost his belt on the scales. If he had that belt, Canelo would have no choice but to fight him, because he would have to pull himself.
It seems like you've not been following Canelo. Canelo doesn't dance to the whim of the sanctioning bodies. He creates his own rules. Did you hear what the man said? Canelo said, and this is facts. This is facts. You can go and look it up. He's not fighting any other Mexicans.
I know about
right?
that.
So, and David Benavidez is part Mexican. His dad's Mexican, and he reps Mexico heavily, David Benavidez. And he's been vocal. He's called out Canelo.
Yeah, I'm going to jump out and jump back in.
Okay, yeah, running, man. He's ducking.
Shane ducking the smoke, man. What's going on?
Ducking the smoke. But yeah, on a serious note, seriously, man, I take the opposite view to Shane on this particular point. To me, what Benavidez did was a breath of fresh air. He called out Canelo. He called out Charlo. Yes, he's been undisciplined in his career. I mean, he lost his first title when he failed a drugs test, some narcotic drug, I think it was cocaine. So then he had to work his way back up, fought for the title, won it. Then he lost it on the scales, like Shane quite rightly said. But listen, man, it's pretty obvious to me and anybody that follows boxing that Canelo did not want that smoke. To be fair to Benavidez, he's called out Charlo. Charlo, 1 minute he wants to fight, next minute he don't. You know what I mean? So I don't think you can blame Benavidez for that. And, you know, the guy's got to stay busy. If he can't get a world title fights, he's got to fight who they put in front of him. Now, is this the best fight in the world for him? Probably not. But the Scatter guy's got a name. Like I said before, the Scatter guy lost the Plant. He was roughing up and retiring Andrade. And that made him a bit of a boogeyman at that time. So maybe there's some life in that dog yet. So yeah, this
Scatter guy was the favorite, I think, against Plant as well.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I don't think that's a bad fight at all.
Last fight on here, Stephen Fulton Jr. will be taking on the winner of Luis Nery and Brandon Figueroa. That kind of wraps up the PBC schedule. Yeah, man, good, interesting fights on there. Let me go. I know we've got a lot of comments on here, so let me just go through the comments quickly while I was sharing the screen. Oh, geez, let me go back. Right, Raps on TV. He's put here, I can't see Andrade getting a fight with Triple G or Eubank Jr. And while I say that, Shane is back, so let me get him back in. What's going on, bro? PBC, Raps has put here, PBC Showtime fixture is decent. I can't believe Charlo's opponent, but Nery against Figueroa is a good fight. Raps on TV's also said Davis can't make the 130-pound weight anymore. Ian Hamilton has said here, so yeah, they're going in on your comments about Gervonta Davis. Ian Hamilton has said here, seems like Davis just fights a live dog when it suits him, when there are rivals for him at 135. Sometimes I wonder what Floyd's plan is for him at times. He'll get the KO and ask the same question. Go to some more comments here. Raps on TV's put here, Charlo versus Castano could be a war. Castano beat Errol Spence Jr. in the amateurs.
Yeah, he did. And I think there's a few other guys that can't, the names don't spring to mind right now, but he's got a few scalps on his record. This guy can fight, man. And he's aggressive and he can box. So he's going to be a handful for Charlo. You know what I mean? He really is. So just that last fight as well, you mentioned the Stephen Fulton fight. I'm looking forward to seeing him again because he's impressed recently. So he's on that upward trajectory. So it'll be good to follow his career.
And that's the unification as well. The fight, that's the unification. If he fights the winner of Luis Nery and Brandon Figueroa, good fight. That's the unification. Who's got the other straps at that weight class?
Probably about 4 other guys.
Well, you got Fulton's WBO and Neri's WBC.
PC.
I just wanted to make.
While you guys think that, I'm going to go through. I need to go through these comments. I need to go through these. So let me go through them. Conrad has put here, you think it's an easy KO for Tank. He eats a lot of shots, and I'm wondering how that works against the bigger guys. Ian Hamilton has said here, some are good fights, some we expect the results of. PBC need to be firing with this because with who they have in their stable, they should be the #1 promoter in the States. Raps has said here, anybody remember Rigondeaux was on the undercard of a Liam Williams fight? Yeah, I do actually. That was the what was it? Was that when Rigondeaux came over to the UK? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember.
When Rigondeaux, who was he fighting? Dickens, and he broke his jaw.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. Raps on TV's.
That was on that run that Rigondeaux was going through at the time.
Yeah.
Successively breaking man's jaw. Yet still, according to Carl Frampton and Barry McGuigan, he was boring. You know what I mean?
Raps on TV's put here
at that time was one of the most shameful periods in boxing history. Actually,
Raps on TV's put here Benavidez has only missed weight once. This is an eliminator, and he's also put, I do think the matchup is average, but I can accept it if he gets a title fight. I think he's talking about Benavidez there. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with Raps. It's not it's not a fight that sort of screams out at you, but it's a worthwhile fight. And like I said, Benavidez has been calling guys out. They've not been responding in kind. The guy's got a fight. He's a professional fighter. You know what I mean? So I'm not on that fight.
You have to point all of the fingers back at his lack of discipline, and he has okay, so he's missed weight to lose his strap once, but he's missed weight before where he's had to weigh in again. So that's happened more than once. And when I look at it, and this is just me being honest, I just personally think that this guy just doesn't. To me, I like him as a fighter because I actually think he's a good fighter. But all of this talk he's talking about, Charlo needs to move up and the Plant stuff and the Canelo stuff. Bro, you had your chance and you lost your belt. The plan was very simple. You win your fight, Plant versus Benavidez. That was the plan, and you lost your belt. So
he's got a point.
Complain.
He's got a point, and I do agree with it up to a degree. But listen, man, the guy's young. He's made mistakes. He's not the first one in the world to do that. But what I do like about him is that the man wants these fights. I'm not under any illusions or pretenses here. I see he looks genuine to me. He wants those fights. He thinks he can beat the guys. Let's see those fights, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And by the way,
what you should be doing, Shane, is criticizing Canelo for saying he's not going to fight Mexican fighters. What the fuck? I've been around saying my views on Canelo so much. That's what you should be directing your anger towards. Something.
The truth is, I am not one of those guys. If I direct all my anger towards Canelo, I still will be subscribing to that boxing surround Canelo. Boxing is so much bigger than Canelo. So I'm like, personally, until Canelo fights Saunders, I don't even need to talk about it because personally, Canelo, there's bigger things happening in the sport right now. So I don't really need to talk about Canelo. And before people put in the comments, I actually did remember you had the other belts in those other weight classes, by the way.
To me as well, that whole thing with the with Benavidez missing weight and dropping that belt because of it. All of a sudden, then you started to see Canelo talk about, he wants to unify, you know what I mean? And I thought to myself, isn't that a coincidence? All of a sudden now, you're talking about unification, now that you know that Benavidez is out the way for a while. But anyway, carry on.
Let's move on, man. We got 2 more topics I want to talk about on the show. And of course, during that time, there's still a live Q&A for you guys to leave your comments and drop the questions. Don't forget, man, if you're in the chat already, if you're watching, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's get it out there, man. Let's get some views up on this show. There's another show this weekend, boxing card. And I'll be honest, man, I don't really have no interest in it at all. It's the Triller, card with Jake Paul against Ben Askren. And I'm going to have to leave the floor to you guys, man, because I'll be honest, man, I don't follow Jake Paul like that. I've seen him. I've seen his face floating about. But, I mean, I think he's supposed to win this. Regis Prograis is on the undercard. He's fighting Ivan Redkach. Now, that's something that I can talk about. But as for the main event, I mean, I'll leave it
You
to
might
you.
as well just skip that. You might as well just skip that because personally, I'd rather just talk about what's it called, progress. When it comes to
You know
them,
what?
them
In many ways, that card this weekend kind of exemplifies a lot of what's wrong with boxing today. The fact that you can get a YouTuber fighting a former MMA guy. I mean, Paul-Askren, for those guys who are watching this who don't know, he's not even a current fight. He retired from the MMA after getting brutally knocked out. I watched that fight live by George Masvidal with a flying knee kick. And that happened about 5 seconds into the fight. So he became a bit of a meme. So that guy's retired as a meme. And now he's coming back and fighting, topping the bill over a former world champion like Regis Prograis and a title contender like Ivan Redkach. What does that say about boxing?
Can I tell you why? And this is when people say, "Oh, you boxing fans are haters on this," and I'll tell you why I personally hate YouTube fights. I hate it because you got this fight getting so much publicity, and then you got two good fights that's not getting the same publicity. Personally, it's already hard for Americans and American fighters to get publicity because there's so much sports over there. Now you got YouTube boxing, it just makes it even harder. Personally, the last time when was it Jake Paul or whoever was fighting KSI, I think what's it called was fighting. There was a world championship fight on that same night. And again,
and Devin Haney fought.
Again, it's the same thing. I just don't rate it. To me, it's just disgusting how this can get so much publicity in comparison to guys like Andrade. And I know people are gonna say, but they just draw a crowd. But this is a sport. And what gets me annoyed is when you Triller, I don't know, they might be on some joke thing, so I'm not really gonna talk about them. But when you got promoters like Eddie Hearn and all of these other guys who are actually putting on fights where your main event is a YouTuber, that's some joke thing to me. That's some. I can't take that serious. I'm sorry.
I think you know what though, Shane. You do make some good points here, but the way things are going at the moment, we're going to have to take it seriously whether we like it or not. Because at the end of the day, man, it's a phenomenon that's with us. I mean, listen, in life, not just sport, in life, market forces dictate, and it's a thing called supply and demand. Now, it has to be said, man, that more people are going to tune in. There's going to be more interest around Jake Paul and Paul-Askren than there's going to be around Regis Prograis and Ivan Redkach. And as sad as that sounds to say, that is just the reality of the situation. So yeah, that dynamic is a very uncomfortable dynamic for me. To see YouTubers, and like I said, he's not even a current MMA guy. The guy's retired. He's only coming out of this. He said it himself. He only coming out of retirement for this fight because it's a money-making opportunity for him. You know what I mean?
I'll say this about it, man. That Paul and the KSI guy, I can't remember how many years ago that was. It was a year or two ago. The aim of that apparently was to bring in fans and like bring numbers in. All I'm seeing is just a trend that's starting to happen now where boxers are going on the undercards. Real life fighters are actually going on the undercards of these guys. We've just seen an announcement today where, you know, like we've got Holyfield fighting McBride, and then you've got like Teofimo Lopez. Is he going to be on the undercard of that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, and look, Shane's a young guy. Do you know what I mean? And he's supposed to be the market, one of the target audiences, and he's not in favor of it. So how much is this really working for boxing fans in general? Is it really bringing in
I work in an office where there are guys, young guys, and they were talking about this fight.
But is it bringing them into the sport though? Are they talking about other fights?
I was just about to say that.
I know what you and you're coming with that traditional stuff, which I'm you know, listen, I subscribe to that view as well. But the reality of the situation is somewhat different. As I was going to say, there's guys in my office, they were talking about Paul-Askren versus Jake Paul. Not one of those guys mentioned Prograis versus Redkach. They probably, not probably, I know they've never heard of them. Is it bringing new fans to the sport? Probably not, because those are just fans.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, they're just going to dip in and out. But if you're Regis Prograis, he's probably going to get quite a big bag for this. Being on, I'll bet you any money, and this is very sad for me to have to say this, But I will bet you any money that the money that Red Catch and Regis Prograis are getting for this fight is probably would have been a lot bigger than if they'd have just had that fight in its own entity, if you see what I mean.
100%.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
That's why these guys are serving themselves up in a way. You know what I mean?
I'm not mad at them because they need to make the money. They need to. I'm not mad at them.
I don't have a problem with Triller and what they're doing. Neither do I have a problem with the YouTubers, because personally they're just trying to make money, trying to have fun, whatever they're doing. I don't really care about that. What I have a problem is when promoters like Eddie Hearn have these YouTubers on their card. To me, you're supposed to be a boxing promoter. So to me, that's where I draw the line. I'm like, bro, you're not. And people always say, oh, the best need to fight the best. I'll keep it real. This is the last 2 years in the height of world turbulence. We've actually seen some really good fights. And we've actually seen some high quality unifications undisputed. We had Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko. We had some good fights last year, and we're having some good fights this year. And to me, all of that's a load of bollocks. Because when people say, oh, we need to see fighters fight the best, then we're going to start entertaining the sport or start taking the sport serious. We're starting to see that now. And all you're seeing is YouTubers getting all the shine. Okay, all fair to Triller for doing what they're doing and giving fighters the chance to make money. I agree with that. But when it comes to big time promoters putting these gimmicks on their card, they just lose a lot of respect. I don't respect them for that. I'm sorry.
Let me go to the comments here. We've got quite a few comments about this topic here. Conrad Boxing has put here, I put a $5 on a draw because they are both absolutely terrible at boxing. I'm guessing he's talking about.
You know what, Conrad? That is not strictly true, is it? Because at the end of the day, Ben Askren has just taken up boxing in the last couple of months since he got called out by Jake Paul. Jake Paul actually conducts himself in the gym like a professional fighter. He is taking it seriously. So let's be honest, man, he's going to put a beat down on Ben Askren. Have you seen Ben Askren on the pads?
How serious is he taking it? He's not looking to become an actual, get in the rankings and work his way up, is he? He's going to take celebrity fights. How serious is he taking it?
What he's going to do, he's got an advantage because he's been doing boxing training now for a number of years. And if you actually look at him in the gym, he does have a lot of athletic ability. So if you see him on the pads, you see him hitting the bag, you see him skipping. If you blinked your eye, you could close your eyes and think, actually, this guy looks like a fighter. But what he's doing that's quite clever, he's calling out, he did it with Nate Robinson, the basketball player before. He calls out guys that have got no experience in boxing. He beats them. I mean, with Nate Robinson, he got what they're terming a highlight reel knockout. And he'll do the same thing to Ben Askren. He'll smoke Ben Askren. And that will just elevate his status in that kind of YouTube world.
Will you watch the fight, Darryl?
Fighters, but what he's doing, he's got like people like Jay Leon Love and who's the guy that Tony Bellew fought? BJ Flores and people like that, coaching him full time. So he's training himself like a full-time fighter, but he's fighting guys that've got absolutely no background in boxing at all. So he's got a massive advantage.
No interest in that at all, man. None.
Yeah, we haven't. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that do, and that's why he's getting away with it.
And Shane, to answer your question, no, I'm not watching it, to be fair. And it's a shame because Prograis and Red Catch, I mean, I would have watched Prograis, but I'll just catch it in the morning. I'm not bothered about watching that.
Personally, I'll keep it real, yeah.
Definitely not paying for it either.
I'm going to say this to what's it called? Lowdown. I think that we actually shouldn't even have spoken about that. Because, to be honest, this channel, who you are and who your dad is, like, you're boxing fans, innit? That's not for you. These fights, as your dad is saying, it's not for the hardcore fans. So I'm pretty sure the people who are watching this aren't interested in this fight neither, because they have a bit of boxing appetite than that. I mean, that's a bit like, that's a load of crap.
So the thing is, you could trace the genesis of this type of stuff back to what happened with Conor McGregor and Floyd. Once that fight happened and it became such a massive commercial success, you were always going to get this. A bit like the Triller thing with Tyson. Once that fight with him and Roy Jones, if you call it that, if you, it's funny, isn't it, that with that Roy Jones and Tyson so-called fight, no one talks about what happened in the ring. All they did was talk about how good Snoop was in presenting it, and stuff like that. And it's just entertainment, basically. And that's what.
Now you got Oscar De La Hoya coming out of retirement as well. Like, oh Jesus Christ!
Let me finish off these comments, man. We got a few here. Ian Hamilton has put that freak show belonged on WrestleMania last week. I know what I'll be doing when this is happening: sleeping, not bothering at all. Raps has put here. I agree. Celebrity YouTube boxing is here to stay. Money talks, unfortunately. Ian Hamilton has also put here. This is more proof as to why we need promoters to make the fights that will attract fans and keep them. Crawford and Spence is the best example. It's why we need AJ versus Fury badly to get announced. And yep, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. Mohammed Zishan, big up Mohammed Zishan in the chat here. He's put YouTube boxing brought me into the sport. And look, Mohammed actually knows his boxing. I've spoken to him about boxing a few times and he knows it. So, you know, anyway, Raps has said here, I have to be honest, I paid for the Little Man show. Listen, I paid for that as well.
Nah, bro.
Big up Raps, man. Raps has gone. Raps, I'll big up, man. We'll catch up later, bro. But
yeah, the Little Man fight. That was. Is that when
I paid for the Little Man? I didn't pay for it. I didn't pay for it, but I watched it.
Yeah, I saw the.
I don't even know. I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even watch. I didn't even know that was happening. Didn't even know.
Just type in Little Man on YouTube and you'll see what we're going on.
I'm not gonna lie. I watched that, man.
It was two dwarfs, basically. It was two dwarfs. There's a guy called Little Man. He's a bit of a personality on YouTube, and he had a fight with
you don't know Little Man?
Yeah.
Nah, I think. Don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if I see him.
One thing I would say on a serious note: don't underestimate the phenomenon of YouTube and social media. Because even us right now, what we're doing now, years ago, people would scorn on that and say, "Oh, what do you guys know about boxing? You're not." Me and Daryl anyway, not so much Shane because I know you're a proper journalist. But people would say, "What the fuck is this guy Laurie talking about? He's not a journalist. How can you be critiquing fights and fighters and stuff like that?" So I'm just, by way of example, showing you how much YouTube and social media has permeated all our lives.
Well,
you know
I get that, but this is the difference. Nobody is masquerade. I had no problem when KSI and Logan Paul fought the first time on YouTube. I had no problem with that. Even if they charged, I had no problem with that. What I have a problem with is when professional fighters are being undersold and being outshadowed by other makeshift people who are masquerading as boxers.
So which one do you have more of a problem with, that or Holyfield versus McBride? Because to me, I think Holyfield versus McBride is way worse. Who wants to see?
Yeah, that's a joke thing as well. That's a complete farce. That's a complete farce. Yeah. And to be fair, I'll tell you the truth, yeah. You know, is it Jake Paul, Logan Paul, the younger brother, the one who's fighting this week? He actually can fight, you know. I'm not gonna lie.
That's what I'm saying.
I heard the story by a guy who was in the gym with him and KSI, and this guy told me, bro, that this guy can fight. Like, he was battering up some real professional boxers. I'm not even gonna lie. This is what someone told me, and I didn't believe it, but I had to take their word for it.
I said to you before, Jake Paul has been conducted. Forget about, because what he's very good at, he will give you that impression that he's just laughing and joking and putting out these crazy videos, which is how he got to fame in the first place. But behind that, I know for a fact he's actually taking his boxing career seriously. He's being trained at the moment by BJ Flores and Jaleon Love, both former top professionals, okay?
I don't know about that, but go on.
No, well, they were, because they fought at a certain level, so they were top professional. They might not have been very good, but they fought for world titles and stuff like that. But anyway, the fact that
let's wrap this up, man, because we got other stuff to talk about.
What I'm going to make is that Jake Paul is taking his career seriously, whereas Ben Askren just picked up boxing 2 months ago. So there you go.
Squared Circle, what's going on, bro? He's put here, sup, Daryl. What's going on, Laurie? Hope all is well. Conrad has put here, great. So I just lost $5. Let's talk about this this AJ and Fury imminent announcement. It should be, surely. Update from last week. The last time we was on here, we were told that, you know, that Eddie Hearn was flying out to certain venues and offers were going to be made to AJ and Fury's teams just to go over what sort of site and venue they'd agree on. Since then, we've had an update that a site and a date has been agreed. Now, just before I went on the show today, there was a Mark Kriegel who works for ESPN. He, I think he did a video or like he wrote an article or something, and he was saying that Saudi Arabia is looking like it will be the place. Not confirmed, definitely not confirmed, but it's looking like it will be Saudi Arabia in late July. Again, no confirmation, but that's coming from Mark Kriegel from ESPN. I've always been pretty optimistic that this will happen in the summer. Go back and have a look at previous shows. But I'm thinking it will do. Tyson Fury's been positive this week. Eddie Hearn has even met Tyson Fury this week. It seems like to me Eddie Hearn is doing all the legwork, by the way. But he met with Tyson Fury. We've heard from AJ. We've heard from John Fury. And it all seems to be a lot more positive. Tyson Fury's flown out to Vegas. He's training out there. So surely we should be getting an announcement next week. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you say imminent, but first we heard June, then we heard July, and now we're hearing Fury saying it's a lot more likely to take place in September. But I think by the end of the year, they're going to fight, I would have thought. So it looks like it's going to happen. You know what? I'm not going to get excited about this fight until it actually gets signed, because there's been so much back and forth now that I'm sick of hearing about all these negotiations.
I don't even think I'm going to get excited when it's signed. I keep it real, because they've just they kind of rinsed it so much that that whole element of surprise just kind of goes now. You're like, oh, when it finally happens, I kind of knew it was going to happen anyway. You removed that whole... I didn't get to be a fan because everybody was speculating. Everybody thought they were a genius. And I didn't get to go through that stage of, oh, wow, this fight's actually happened. Because they've had so much breakdowns, fallouts, and then bringing it back together. I only care about one.
When the hype machine starts rolling, you'll be dragged in. You'll be dragged in. I know what you mean now.
No, of course. I would definitely be dragged in without a doubt. Now, I cannot ask you guys a question. I'm sorry to do this, yeah? But I heard Stephen A. Smith, and I just want to know you guys' opinion. I've asked Dow this before, and I have to ask you your opinion.
I like Stephen A.
What's a better fight for boxing? Errol Spence versus Crawford or Tyson Fury versus AJ? That's what I want to know. I want to ask you guys your opinion. For boxing point blank period. Not bigger.
That question is redundant because Crawford and Spence is not going to happen.
Just and it's easy for me as well. Use your imagination.
Fury and AJ.
There's no point in talking about Crawford versus Spence anymore because it's not going to happen. Crawford said that he doesn't want to fight anymore. He spent too long trying to get Spence or Lil Errol to the negotiating table. So I think, you know what we should do as fans and as boxing aficionados? We shouldn't even bother with that anymore. Let's not talk because it's not going to happen. Like Daryl said, let's just focus on the fight that is going to happen. So that
even if it was Fury and AJ for me, it's the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. You're shaking your head, but let me say my piece. It's the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. What's the glamour division in boxing? It is heavyweight. It's two Brits. I'm being biased, but it's two Brits at the end of the day fighting for all the belts, all the marbles. The biggest fight in British boxing history. For me, it's bigger than Spence and Crawford. It is.
I didn't say bigger. I said better.
Better. I mean, better than maybe like in terms of the actual fight. Maybe you could make a case for Spence and Crawford. But hey, these are heavyweights, man. You can't beat an undisputed heavyweight championship.
The reason why I have to say Spence and Crawford, and I know Laurie's like boiling inside because he doesn't.
Listen. Crawford and Spence would have been a great fight. You know what I mean? I do agree with what Daryl's saying. You can't beat a heavyweight fight of that.
No, but can I tell you why I see that fight as well?
Let me finish. What I was going to say, no one cares anymore because
he's right.
Spence and Crawford, that ship sailed now. That's like Khan and Brook a few years back. The two guys couldn't make it happen. And as boxing fans, we just move on and say, listen, you know what I want to see now? Ortiz versus Jerome Ennis. That's what I want. Forget about Spence Crawford. Those guys are in their 30s as well now. They better get a move on, man. You know what I mean? So, you know.
Go on, Shane.
And I'll say this. Personally, Crawford is pound for pound number 1. Errol Spence is pound for pound number 5. These guys are the better boxers and better fighters than Spence and than any other fight that could be made in boxing. This is the best one that could be made. I agree with Laurie. I'm so heartbroken that that fight won't happen. And I should have expected this, because 2 years ago, someone told me that this fight will never ever happen. And they told me in a video, we were live, and he said the fight will never happen. And I just thought that at some point they would try to work it out, but it won't, but they didn't. When you talk about AJ and Fury now, personally, I just feel like I think they're both just so flawed. In the sense of, not flawed, no, I rate them. Sorry, they're both A-level fighters, but they both have asterisks next to their names. So when you look at Errol Spence and Crawford, there's no asterisks. When you look at Fury and AJ, one has a loss and one has a draw, and one of them, and also he has a dubious win. Tyson Fury, he has a few dubious wins on his resume, and to me, I feel like this fight has been built up so big, but I feel like we could be in an anti-climax when we watch that fight. I'm not gonna lie, I'll be the first one, and I actually might buy tickets to go to that fight, wherever the fight is. I actually might buy tickets to go to it, but I just feel like it might just be an anti-climax where you're building up so high for it to be a good fight, and it just be boring.
Well, if you can afford to buy tickets to watch that fight, you've obviously done very well for yourself, man.
I mean, I heard the tickets won't be that expensive. I heard the tickets will be like 2,000-3,000, so it won't be that bad.
Let's go to some comments here. Ian Hamilton has said, I don't want to brag, but I've been positive that this would happen and believe like crazy it was a case of when and not if. It seems like the last hurdle has been overcome. I'm chomping at the bit for this. These massive fights always take ages to get made. There are 5 teams of people to keep happy and broadcasters. It was never going to be made in a week. Big up Olalekan Olasunkami. I hope I pronounced your name right, bro. He's put here, AJ versus Fury is bigger and better, hands down. No cap. That's what he's got to say about that. Ian Hammond has said here, AJ versus Fury is for every belt possible to determine the number 1 heavyweight in the world. Plus, you'll have Eddie and Frank at the presser trading verbals. The minute
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that.
Listen, man, I have to say, yeah, I just think that this fight, man, and I agree with what Laurie says here, man, about Spence and Crawford. I'm just so tired of that now. I'm so tired. Like, them two have just led us on some little dance, man. You know what I mean? Like,
they just sucked the energy out the room.
Just sucked it all out of me.
Especially Lil Errol, man. You know what I mean? He was just, let's be honest, man, he was the main person that why this fight's not happening. It was clear from the outset he did not want that fight with Crawford. Now, where I would give AJ and Fury credit is that at least those two guys have entertained the fight. They wanted the fight. They're calling each other out, and now it's happening to all intents and purposes. You can't say that about Crawford and Spence. So
look what they've had to overcome as well for that fight to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think, even though I hear what you're saying, Shane, about one's pound for pound number 1, one's pound for pound number 5. The two, I mean, Fury is a character. Do you know what I mean? AJ, he's not perfect, but he can bring excitement to his fights. We've seen that. We've seen him on the floor. We've seen him come back to win. That fight against Klitschko was one of the better heavyweight title fights of recent times. Fury, we've seen him in drama. We've seen him knocked down or probably out for against Deontay Wilder, get up, then earn himself a draw. These two guys are big characters. It's like, especially for us over here in the UK, I'm not saying Americans have to feel the same, but for us over here in the UK, it's huge. It doesn't get any bigger. It doesn't.
And let's be honest as well. If you look at boxing over the years, and listen, I'm in my 50s now, and I've been watching boxing from as long as I can remember in my life. And you'll tend to find that heavyweight boxing defines world boxing, if you know what I mean. So you've seen it with people like Tyson, Ali, Larry. People look at the state of heavyweight boxing and judge boxing accordingly.
That's very true. That's very true.
That these two are fighting because they're
when
actually.
When Klitschko was the head of the division, boxing was in a shambles.
This is the type of fight here, AJ Fury, where my mum will be asking, like, what happened? Oh, who won that fight? Like, AJ, is that tonight? Like, do you know what I mean? Where She's not going to say that about Spence and Crawford. She's not.
But I get that, and I understand about the whole profile thing. But I'm just watching it. I'm looking at it from a fan. What I'm going to watch and see. Who is going to put on a better display? As a consumer, I only care about the product that I receive. I don't care about the product that you receive or anybody else receive. What I receive, and what I think I would have received would have been a better product from Errol Spence and Crawford. In my opinion, I don't think there's any fighter in this sport that can fight like Crawford. So to me, in order for the fight to be the best fight in the world, it has to include the best fighter. That's how I look at it. I don't think there's any fighter that can fight like
that's your personal opinion, and that's fair enough. But Daryl is also right by saying that a fight like the magnitude of undisputed heavyweight championship of the world is far-reaching, and it carries more weight than Spence versus Crawford. But then I'm going to add on top of that I don't even think Spence and Crawford, the way they've behaved, especially Little Errol, deserve us to be talking about that fight anymore. Because it's not going to happen, man. You've already heard Crawford say a few weeks ago that he's no longer interested in that fight. He said, and I believe him, I've tried to make the fight many times. They won't come to the table with a reasonable offer. I'm moving on. And I don't blame him for that, to be honest. You know what I mean? Little Errol is not the only welterweight out there. You know what I mean? He's not the only fight out there for Crawford. And if these guys are not going to come to the negotiating table, you have to move on. It happens. I mean, look at Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis. You know what I mean? That didn't happen. Boxing still survived, and it will survive.
Where do you want the AJ Fury fight to be? That's a good question.
I mean, ideally, it's not going to be the case, but ideally, the perfect thing for this would have been for it to be at Wembley. Do you know what I mean? They would have made a huge deal. They would have had like a sporting weekend. They would have really pumped the promotion for this fight out of the window. If it was in England or in London, wherever. I don't care where it is, you know, Shane. I don't care. I just want to see it now. At this point, they could fight in flipping wherever. Like, I just want to see it. So if it's in Saudi Arabia, if it's in Singapore, if it's in Qatar, if it's in Vegas, wherever, I honestly don't care.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, listen, in a perfect storm, it would have been AJ versus Fury at Wembley in front of 90,000 fans, not 80 as Carl Froch likes to say. But yeah, and that would have been the perfect storm. However, we're living in a different time now. COVID, market forces in terms of money. They're having to look for a different site.
But isn't it a 2-fight deal? Is it a 2-fight deal?
2-fight deal. So that's what it is being told, yeah.
So both fights will be in the same location.
Even though the fight's not in England, you know that the way the culture is in this country, there's going to be, the fight will probably go out at a time which is suitable for the English public, for the British public. So, you know what I mean? There'll be pubs showing the fight. There'll be bars showing the fight. People will have fight parties and, you know what I mean? So they'll do the next best thing. So it's still a massive, massive occasion.
Let me go to some comments here before we wrap it up for today. Ian Hamilton has put, at least AJ and Fury want to fight each other and haven't let the egos and teams get in the way, unlike the two welterweights. Them two are behaving like children. Jeff has said here, you can't believe nothing that guy Shane says. And he's put, my favorite guys, Boxing Lowdown, Shane and Laurie. Big up my man, Jeff TV in the house, man. Oh, what's going on with them 76ers, bro? Them 76ers are looking good. You know what I mean? Top seed in the East. But we'll talk about that another time. That's NBA talk. Rasta Dad has put, evening, gents. How are we all this evening? Very good, man. Thank you for joining us. Trevor Charlie, if this is the Trevor that I know, me and this guy work together, man. So big it up if it is him. But Trevor Charlie has put, fight in the Tesco car park. Listen, I'll take that fight anywhere. It could be in Eddie Hearn's back garden, Tesco car park, could be anywhere. I'll take it. I'll take it, man. At this point, I just want to see it. Big up Trev, man. If it is Trev, man, what's going on? I hope you're well, man. Ian Hamilton has also put here, they could fight on the moon. I just want them to get it on wherever it is. I agree. I don't care. If I'm not going, I don't care where it is.
You also have to factor into the equation if or when these two guys fight and you get an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, that kind of sets the gold standard for the rest of the weights. Because people are going to say, nah, listen, we've got a undisputed heavyweight world champion. Let's, you know what I mean, let that filter down to the rest of the weights.
But we're already seeing that happen. We're already seeing that happen.
Yeah, I know we're seeing it in part, but what I'm saying, if you can use the heavyweights as an example, because let's face it, the heavyweight division, as Daryl said early, is like the marquee division of boxing. So if you've got that at the top echelon, an undisputed champion, to me, it makes it easier for more guys to take the example and try and become undisputed champions.
How much pay-per-views do you think it does?
Good question. I saw Eddie Hearn say somewhere today he thinks he'll do 3 million.
I think the same thing.
Yeah, I do too. We'll do millions, man, because it's not just a British thing, is it? It's global.
But how big is it in America? Because you see Stephen A. I saw that when Stephen A. said that on ESPN on First Take. He's American. Do you know what I mean? He's an American journalist, and he said that Spence and Crawford for him is still bigger. I see some American fans say that Spence Crawford is still bigger. Be good to see what good to see what Jeff thinks about actually.
Yeah, but they're still going to watch it, aren't they? They're still going to watch it.
Yeah.
You can see Spence Crawford.
We were on a live. I'm glad you said that on Jeff's channel. We were on a live, and there was a few guys in the actual live with us, and they actually still want to see AJ versus Wilder. That's the fight they want to see the most.
You know what it is with the Americans, right? Let's be honest. When it comes to boxing and even other sports as well, Americans kind of look down their noses at the Brits a little bit. So what you're seeing with people like Stephen A. Smith, who, let's be honest as well, he's not a proper boxing commentator. He's more known for his basketball stuff. So what you're seeing with a lot of those guys is a little inherent jealousy there. They don't like the fact that you've got two Brits contesting the biggest fight in many, many years. You know what I mean? But whose fault is that? You know what I mean? That's just how it is, man. So I think they're kind of looking down their nose a little bit. And that's why you get people like Stephen A. Smith saying, well, actually, to me, Spence Crawford, rah, rah, rah. Listen, this is a massive, massive fight. It's going to get global attention. And the pay-per-view buys are going to go through the roof. You're going to get all sorts of people watching this fight, from your diehards to your connoisseurs to your casuals, even the like once-in-a-lifetime boxing fans. And like I said, you can just imagine in this country, there's going to be street parties and fight parties, and you know what I mean?
Are you keeping a fight party, Laurie?
Well, depending on the lockdown restrictions at that time, which hopefully we'll be out of, yeah, I just might do that. I might invite you around, man.
Jeez, might have to do a watch along for that, man.
Yeah. Listen, man, we've got to do something, because that's going to be a monumental night for boxing. Like I said, not just in this country, but across the world. You know what I mean? Big up Trev, man. Me and this guy used to work together, man. Legend of a guy, Trevor Charlie. He's put, yep, me too. Just want to see it. All good, bro. Good to see you, man. Hope all is well with you too. Let's catch up after this, man, or something, man. I'll drop you a message, Trev. Good to hear from you, man. Sully, what's going on, Sully, man? I always like when this guy drops comments, man. This guy drops some real comments, so good to have him here. He's put, Errol literally told Crawford which promotions he needs to sign to in order to fight him. Imagine the outrage if Canelo told the Charlos and Plant and Benavidez, sign to DAZN if you want to fight me. Yeah, but what's worse, him saying that to Crawford or Canelo saying, I'm not going to fight no Mexicans? To me, that was way worse. So Ian Hamilton has put here, let's just think that somewhere, let me read that again. Let's just think that somewhere deodorant Wilder is going to the graveyard looking at the gravestone that says his unbeaten record, reminding him that he lost. Where is Deontay Wilder? Twerking. He wasn't on that PBC schedule. No. Do you know what I mean? What's going on? I think he's still twerking.
I heard Deontay Wilder was considering retiring.
That'd be a shame, because look, man, whatever we say about Wilder, I love watching him. He's entertainment, man. He's a character, whether you like him or not. He keeps you on the edge of your seat. And like, you know, any second, the guy who he's fighting could be flat on their back. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of thing is exciting. I'm a bit disappointed.
To be fair to Wilder, he has expressed an interest in fighting Fury, and apparently they're having to pay him off so this fight can go ahead. So I don't think he's retiring anytime soon. There's been talk of him. There was talk of him a little while ago fighting. Who's the guy that AJ beat for the top? Prince Charles Martin. And then that didn't happen. So I expect to see him in a ring maybe late this year or early next year. But he's going to have to rebuild his career, because he's going to have to wait for this, because AJ and Fury are going to fight twice. So he's going to have to wait for that to be concluded before he even gets a sniff at the belts. And then you've got guys like Usyk, Joe Joyce, people that, let's face it, man, Wilder would be by no means certain to beat anymore. You know what I mean? So he really needs to get back in that ring soon.
Do you think it's fair that they're doing a 2-fight deal? I don't think that's fair, to be honest.
I don't really like that type of thing. I've said before on Daryl's show, I'm a big fan of 2-fight deals and rematch clauses and all that type of stuff. I'm not in that. And the other thing I would say as well, I just hope that after all we've gone through to get this fight happening, I just hope that the fight lives up to expectation. And I do kind of see where Shane is.
I can't see how it doesn't. I can't see how it doesn't.
No, I can't. I'm not going to lie.
I can't see it.
I could see Fury winning a boring 12-round points decision. I could.
Is AJ going to let him do that?
I can't see that. I can't see that.
Is AJ going to let him do that?
I can't see that at all.
He's not going to let Fury dance around him for 12. He's not going to let him do that.
What I see, it could be a very hugging fest, like a lot of hugging, holding type of thing. Kind of like how we saw when AJ fought Parker, where there's a lot of hugging and a referee getting involved. I kind of see it going to be like that because Tyson Fury don't like fighting on the inside, and AJ doesn't really have a lot of ferocious aggression when he doesn't have you hurt. So I think it's going to be quite a. I hope it's not that, and I hope I'm wrong, but I can see.
What I'm going to say is I hope it's not as bad as Fury versus Klitschko, because that was one of the worst fights I ever saw. And not only that, I think that set
worse than Joseph Parker and Junior Park.
That fight set a record for the least amount of power punches thrown in a world title fight. So I just don't want to see that. But I think that AJ's going to be on smoke, man. I think he's going to realize that boxing at range, he's not going to do it. He's going to have to close the distance and try and get to Fury. And if he can do that, I definitely got a chance of winning, because I think that, well, we've seen it. Fury's been dropped a few times now.
So is AJ.
He's been dropped by Steve Cunningham, who's a cruiserweight. He's been dropped other times as well. So AJ definitely has a puncher's chance. It's down to the tactics. I've said it before. If he gets the tactics right on the night, he can win this fight, definitely.
Shane, what do you think about the chances of AJ knocking out Fury? You can put Fury down, but can you keep him down?
Personally, I think AJ wins on points.
Points?
I thought, again, this is why I say it, and I say this all the time. Fury doesn't have good offense. You win fights by landing punches, not herky-jerky, sticking your tongue out, arms behind your back, all of that wavy. That doesn't landing punches. And the truth is, the only reason why he beat Klitschko was because Klitschko didn't throw a lot of punches. If you look how much punches Fury landed,
yeah, but why didn't Klitschko throw punches? Should we give Fury more credit?
No, wait. I can answer that question right now. Klitschko's never been a brave fighter. Even Emmanuel Stewart said that he's never been a brave fighter. There was a story where Robert Helenius was in gym with Robert Helenius was in the camp with Klitschko, and Klitschko held all day after he felt one punch. That's Robert Helenius. So
we're not giving Fury credit for that Klitschko win now.
I'm giving him credit, but at the same time, you got to understand that there's a different mentality. Anthony Joshua's a live dog. Klitschko's never been a live dog. Name me one fight where Klitschko's gone, you know what, I need to go and get this. I've never seen him do that.
He did it against Wilder. He did it against
Klitschko. When has Klitschko ever done that? Klitschko go, you know what, I'm gonna bite down on my gumshoe and go and get this. I've never seen him do that.
We need to put respect on his name. Klitschko was do you know what I mean? It wasn't entertaining to watch, but in terms of his reign as a heavyweight champion, you know what I mean? We have to respect him.
His two biggest fights were lost.
I can give you two recent examples where Klitschko was entertaining. When he knocked out Pulev in 4 rounds, and at that time Pulev was unbeaten and he was live. And even in the AJ fight, that was a great fight to watch with Klitschko and AJ. That was a lot of people say that was fight of the year. You know what I mean?
Well, I can give you an example of when he fought Povetkin, and he hugged Povetkin all night long. And
when he should have got disqualified for that.
Yeah. When he fought David Haye, he was throwing this guy on the floor in every clinch. Literally, to me, Tyson Fury, if you're telling me that Tyson Fury has a good offense, then I don't know what to say.
No, we didn't say that.
No, we didn't say that. I'm just saying we need to put some respect on his name for beating Klitschko in Germany.
No, I'm giving him respect, but it's a different fight. AJ is with a different mentality. AJ will go and throw 80 punches around, 70 punches around. You're gonna have to outland him. and that's how you win a fight. You outland your opponent. If you don't outland your opponent, you don't win the fight. So if you're gonna ask me who's gonna land more punches in a 12-round fight, in my opinion, it's gonna be AJ. Naturally, because he's gonna throw more, and I don't think Fury can fight at close range. That's my opinion.
Personally, I don't think it's going to go 12. I think there's a lot of personal pride at stake. It's like a local derby, this one, and I think that Fury, off the back of his win against Wilder, where he looked devastating, let's be honest, he's going to come out. Well, he's already saying it. He's going to knock out AJ in 3 rounds, and I think the pride and the passion and the energy that fight is, at some stage, a fight is going to break out, and this is why I'm saying it kind of plays into AJ's hands. Because if he can get his tactics right, I think he can knock Fury out. I think that's his best way of winning. I really do.
I think if Fury comes with that mentality of come forward, let's try a trade, he's going to get knocked out. Fury will get knocked out because he can't. One thing about Wilder is all you need to worry about is a single. That's all he throws. He's like he's in a strip club. All he does is throw singles. 1 shot at a time, 1 shot, 1 shot. But after that shot, you're good. But when you're fighting AJ's throwing combinations, and he's a prolific inside fighter. That's what he does. He's known for fighting on the inside. To me, if you're trying to come forward against AJ and meet him in the middle, I don't see.
What if he fights on the back foot, sticks the jab, moves around like he did in the Wilder first fight?
And if he does that, he's going to have to outland AJ. And to me, he won't outland AJ because he didn't even land that much punches against Wilder. I'll be honest. You look at the punch stats. How much punches did he land against Wilder? Not many.
Let's go to some more comments.
I'm going for AJ. I think if he, you know what punch I think is going to be successful for AJ in this fight? The uppercut. So if he throws the 1-2, and then brings the uppercut through the middle, a bit like what he did with Klitschko, I think he's going to have a lot of success in that fight. And I'm backing AJ to win. I know most people are going for Fury, but the only reason why they're going for Fury is because of what he did against Wilder. Did they see the Fury versus Otto Wallin or Steve Cunningham and people like that? Yes, he got the wins, but he didn't look that impressive. And AJ as well, he lost to Andy Ruiz. He's been hurt in fights. And I think the 2 guys' vulnerabilities is what makes for such a great fight. And that's why I don't think this fight's going the distance, man. I think it's going to end before 12.
We go to some comments here. I'm going to have to wrap the show up as well, guys. We're like well in. But I'll go through some comments. Jeff TV has put here, I'm coming to GB or coming to the UK for that fight if it's at Wembley. Listen, bro, you'd be more than welcome to come down here, man. Trust me, I'm not sure if has Jeff been to the UK before?
No, Shane. He hasn't.
Yeah, be more than welcome.
He's always talking about coming. He's always speaking about coming.
Yeah, he's welcome to come to the UK. You can watch the fight here with me, but it ain't going to be at Wembley. I think that's... If that fight was going to be at Wembley, they would have made some kind of announcement that they're contacting Wembley as a possible site fee. It won't be in this country.
I think it'd be Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Ian Hamilton has put here, sorry about the typo there. Mohammed has put, Wilder was bashing AJ after 1 loss. Look at him now. Go through some more comments here. We got a lot, man. Big up everybody in the chat. Trevor Charlie's put here, still twerking. Conrad Boxing has put here, I expect the first fight to be a chess match. And then he's put with week-long discussions about the scorecards. I hope not. Trevor Charlie's put here, good to hear that AJ is back in the frame. All British affair on home soil. Think both of them will go for it. Sully has put, don't forget Vladimir had the Tempur-Pedic canvas. David Hay was probably fighting Vladimir on a bouncy house. Mohammed has put here, Shane speaking facts. Ian has put here, Fury will not get to AJ mentally. That's how he first wins. AJ punches way harder and is more aggressive. I'm biased, but AJ is also physically superior. So he's going with AJ in that fight there, man. Let's wrap it up, man. Both you guys, you've given me your predictions on AJ and Fury once it is announced. We've spoken about the upcoming fights this weekend. Both of you guys, man, it's been a pleasure to have you on, as always. And just wrap it up for me, man. Laurie, what you got to say?
No, man, pleasure to be on as always. Pleasure listening to my boy Shane here. He's always outspoken and forthright, and it's really good to share a platform with him to talk about the sport that we love, bro. So yeah, man, good stuff. Another great show. I hope that people like it and appreciate it and share it.
Didn't get to see you two go at it about Bivol, but we might have to do that on another show.
I was gonna get to that, but I think we need to do that live. So when the pandemic's done, we have to do a live video. I don't know how we're gonna do that, but
listen,
all of
man,
us have to link up somehow.
let's hope Craig Richards could do us all a favor, man, and just get Bibble out of there. You know what I mean? However, I've got to be fair and acknowledge that Bivol is going to be the heavy favourite for that fight. And I just would like to say as well, I mean, I'm surprised Shane hasn't messaged me that to that effect, but all of a sudden, Bivol's win over Joe Smith is starting to look real good right now.
I don't need to say anything because I said this. I have an article on you. You can type it right now on Google. I have an article on and.
Oh, just quickly, by the way, did you because I know you're big on Eastern European fighters. What did you think of Smith versus Vladov? I thought that was a great fight.
I thought it was a great fight as well. I actually spoke to Joe Smith after the fight, so he follows me on Instagram.
Do you think he was a deserved winner?
Personally, I felt like what gave him the win to me was the fact that whilst they didn't count as a knockdown, I still felt like that round was a clear Joe Smith round. And sometimes I just feel like I had it very close, and I felt like if it wasn't a draw, it was a Joe Smith. And I feel like he should have got that knockdown, in my opinion. I feel like he should have got that knockdown. So I feel like he deserved to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had him winning. It was a great fight, and I had him up by 1 or 2 rounds. But it was a very good and hard, closely contested fight. So yeah, credit to
I'm looking forward to see the fights this weekend, man. That's what I'm looking forward to. Look, man.
Yeah, man, we'll talk about it on the next show, guys. Shane, you're more than welcome to join if you want to join again. But listen, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Big up to everybody in the comments. Thank you to Laurie and Shane for joining me today. And enjoy your weekend, guys. And we'll catch you on the next show next week. Big up.
Peace.